All right. Assalamualaikum and good afternoon to the JPN officers, PPD officers, the moderator, Dr. William, panels, timekeeper, and all the teachers. So I'm Najmi Akmal from SMK Bongor, and today I would like to share the intervention or best practice that I did with my students, which is using scaffolding to support students in writing. So before I start, I would like to share with all of you about the background of my schools. SMK Bongor is actually a small school with 500 students and 38 teachers. And one of the biggest challenges that we face is lack of English teachers. So I think it happens around the school in Malaysia. So it becomes a big burden for all of us because not just because we lack of English teachers, but also most of the students there are, I can say majority of them are really weak in English. Besides, what I could share about this, since we are non-streaming schools, we accept all types of students. So, for example, we receive a lot of illiterate students. And then there are some of them who haven't been in school for 2 or 3 years and suddenly they appear in our school just to sit for the exams. So we cannot deny their right, right? That's why it's really create a problem because the pressure really fall under the teachers. Because our aim is to make sure that we are not aiming for good students to get A's. We are aiming for many students to pass. So since we got a lot of illiterate students and all the students has been expelled, so it's a huge responsibility for all the teachers. Let us English teachers, we need to come up with our own ideas, and sometimes we ourselves struggle to find the ideas or some of the approaches to make sure these weaker learners are able to understand English subjects. So why did I choose scaffolding? So by looking at the topic, using scaffolding to support students in writing, actually there are a lot of approaches that have been done in my school, but I find scaffolding is really useful for my students ranging from good, mediocre, and weaker learners. So why scaffolding? Because when we use scaffolding, students become more, become more better and confident writers. In many schools, especially ordinary like mine, English is seen as an alien language. So they don't see the purpose of using English in school. And what is the use of English outside of the school? Are they going to converse with their family or friends? Nothing. So there's no use. Even the phone setting is in Malay. So what's the use of using English or teaching English to them? So my goal is to change that perception, to make sure that they love and enjoy English even a little bit. And let me begin with the background of the study. So in my classroom, I noticed because I teach all forms, because we have lack of English teachers. So teaching Form 1 to Form 5 is just a normal thing for me and the other teachers. Because sometimes some teachers in other school, they keep complaining because I only want to teach lower form or even for upper form. So they don't want to mix with lower and upper form. But for us, it's normal. So many students struggle with writing. Not just because they're weak of language skills, but they're not confident. So this is where scaffolding comes in. Most of them lack of ideas and structure. So scaffolding actually, it helps students to generate ideas, develop their confidence, and organize their thoughts. So this is actually scaffolding. We learn about it from Vygotsky, Zone of Proximal Development. So it provides students with step-by-step guidance before they can start standing on their own. So it means that as a teacher, we provide them more like a staircase for them, one step at a time. Once they are ready, they are able to stand on their own. So the concept of scaffolding is being chosen because it helps students, especially in my school, because I have mentioned majority of my students are very weak. Even for the first class, only some of them are able to write good essay. So for scaffolding, actually, it involves breaking down complex things into manageable chunks. So it means that teacher provide guidance until they are able to do on their own. And this one, I find it really effective for low proficiency learners. So as the goal in my classroom is, so my aim to make sure that my classroom, I want them to shift or move from fear to fluency in writing. And then the purpose of the intervention is, I think that I want to support students in developing better writing through structured guidance and practice. So I'm not only wanting them to write better essays, but I also want them to enjoy learning English. So it means that I don't want them to see English as an alien language. Even if you are from Kampong, you can also succeed. And some of them, for me, understanding the meaning behind of every word is already a big success. So this study, as usual, the intervention and the implementation is being conducted in a typical classroom setting, and also use differentiated strategies. So it means that for different classes, I will use different modules. So for weaker learners, mediocre, and even for good learners. So for weaker learners, by using scaffolding, I will provide them with full support. So for those who are referring to my slide, my poster, so there are some of the questions there for weaker learners, because they don't even know where to start or how to start. So I provide them with all the email writing. It starts with the email writing. They need to rearrange the email. So that's the least that they can do, because they cannot write. So that's the least that they can do. Once they are able to rearrange all the email in order, so I ask them to rewrite. So at least when they learn to rearrange, or they know the introduction should be high and then the closing should be, that's all from me. So they know at least they can gain some of the vocab there. While for mediocre, I always challenge them to improve clarity and organization. And then for the good one, okay, there are some of the gems in the school, which really makes it put your heart at ease actually. So I challenge themselves to refine their language and explore more ideas. So for example, for good learners, okay, in my school, we are focusing on part 3, we are focusing on review writing and article writing, but mostly on review. And luckily, because review came out last year, so it's such a blessing in disguise. So for good learners, instead of saying, I like to go to that restaurant because of the good coffee, so I want them to change, make it more interesting. And once the reader read your ideas, they can imagine. For example, I like to go to the restaurant because of the rich, aromatic, freshly brewed coffee. So the combination of the bitterness and the sweetness of the coffee is a good companion during a foggy morning, quiet foggy morning. So it means that once the reader can read, so they can imagine. That's how they can create a good sentence. Same goes to the delicious beef. So for the good students, I actually provide them with vocabulary banks. They are really good, but then sometimes they lack of the vocab. For instance, instead of saying delicious beef, what about you say about the tender, the juiciness of the beef? And then every bite was bursting with flavor. So it means that, and I always ask them, do you see good coffee and freshly brewed coffee? Which one do you find more interesting? So they can really make a choice. So that's how people read your ideas. So for the intervention, I also use model essays, vocabulary banks, brainstorming, writing frames, and guided practice. So I'm not using all of it at once. So it depends on the classes. So if I enter weak classes, so I will use more on writing frames and model essays. So writing frames, it helps them to start with introductions and conclusion. So for example, question for part 2 or email writing. So there are 3 questions being asked for the students. So they need to follow all the questions there. As long as you can answer the question, you'll gain marks. And then for the good learners, more on brainstorming as well as vocabulary banks. So I provide them with all the vocab, thanks to some of the teachers who share about the good things or the adjectives that can be used to describe places, people. So it's really helpful for my students. As students become more confident, so focusing on scaffolding, I gradually reduce my help or assistance. So it allows them to take charge of their own writing. Well, as you can see, this method is really low cost, simple, effective. With the school, if you want to use it with limited resources and especially with weaker learners. So the results, we can see the first one is, this is the intervention that I am most proud of for last year. The first one is students improve in idea generation. So why did I say that? So because before scaffolding, students didn't know what to write and how to start. It's more like a writer's block. So after guided brainstorming or providing guided essays with them, they begin to generate more ideas. So it's really kind of a blessing in disguise for them, because before this, they didn't even have any ideas. But somehow, when I provide them with all the support, they are able to write, even for weaker learners. It's really a big success for me, because in my school, it's normal for students who cannot write at all, especially email writing. So in other schools, email writing, most of the teachers won't focus on that because they're already on their own level. So it means that they can gain 15 marks and above. So it means that they are already on the right track. But for my school, to gain even 10 marks, it's really difficult. It's just like, it will be a dream come true if some of the weaker learners are able to gain 10 marks. And then because of the scaffolding, some of the students, they are no longer waited for the teachers to tell them what to do, because they already have the module. I ask them to answer the question, and sometimes they already come out with their own ideas. Okay, so second one is better organization. Okay, what about better organization? So this one, when I use writing frames, most of the students are really bad in arranging all the sentences in a good order, or when paragraphing all the essays. They started to organize their essays clearly from introductions and conclusions. So we can see that their work become more structured, logical, with proper transition and flow. The third one is about better language use. Okay, this one, we can see that even my students some of them are really good, but errors are inevitable. So we can see that some students begin to use more precise vocabulary, especially when they want to focus on review writing. So they will choose the correct vocabulary for review, while if they want to choose for article writing, they will use the correct sentence, because article writing is focusing more on formal language. And the last one, it increased their confidence and independence. Okay, maybe because if scaffolding is being done, is a new thing for them, they find it difficult. But I introduced scaffolding since they were in lower form. So it means that when I enter the class, so they are familiar with it. This can be seen when some students used to say, "Teacher, I don't know how to start. I don't know where to start or what to write." And started saying, "Teacher, can you check my work? Am I on the right track? Am I using the correct words? What about this kind of vocabulary? Is it acceptable in the essay?" And some even really help their peers to complete the task. So it's more like helping each other, because they started to believe in their own ability. So I always say to them, because it's okay if you are from kampung, but knowing that you have your own ability, but you haven't discovered it yet. It's your talent, but you haven't discovered it yet. So as you can see, the comparison for SPM result in 2023 and 2024. So for your information, 2024 result is the best, because that school, it's around 15 years. It's quite new. I was told it was 15 years there. And the good result was in 2011. But now, 2024 has outperformed that result. From 2023 is 7.54, it becomes 7.05. So the difference of 0.49. So for us, English teachers, we are really grateful, even it's just for 7 point and something. So we can see that high achievers is in my school. It's really hard to really hope that many students will get A. But last year, 6 students got A minus, which is really give a big impact for us as teachers there, because it means that we have done something that really changed their perception toward English. And for mid-tier performance, B, C plus, and C, there's a slight increase in the number, while G is still persists, 33 students. So others might think that there's a lot of students who fail, but for ordinary school like mine, it's okay as long as not all of them fail. Absenteeism, well, it has decreased from 9 to 5. So I think it's a good start for, for the school. And then for overall passing rate, we can see that from in 2024, 63.16% to 66.67% in 2024. So it means that a lot of low-performing students are able to pass. Okay, so what I can conclude with all this presentation, and I chose scaffolding as one of the approach that made a big impact in making students improve in their writing, because it really boosts their confidence. Before, these students are unwilling to write, but now when they have the guidance, the support, and even the sample essays, they started to believe that they can do it. It's not that because I don't even know how to write it, how to write the email. What should I start for the first sentence? So they started to change their kind of mentality. Second one is better idea generation and organization. So the use of resources like model essays really help them in generate more ideas. And the last one is it is easy to implement and scale. So the method is really low cost because we can print all the things online, and then it can be easily replicated in other classrooms and can be adapted for various skills. For example, you can use scaffolding in reading as well as in speaking. For example, for weaker learners, you want to use it in speaking. For example, you provide them with sample question. My favorite hobby. They might not know how to start the sentence, so we can provide them with sentence starters as well as the key vocabulary. So ask them, we can brainstorm the types of hobby. Why do you like that hobby? So we provide them with sentence starters. We will help them slowly but surely. For those who think that they are unable to talk, they actually can, but they don't know how to start. So what makes scaffolding is really powerful for me because of its flexibility. So the first one, because for weaker learners, we can see that before this, they always gave the blank page during exam. But now somehow they are able to attempt part 1 email writing and even for part 2. And for part 3, it's quite far, but that's a good progress because I am able to attempt part 1 and part 2. And for mediocre learners, they started to write in more structured and thoughtful writing. And for good learners or advanced, or I would say better students, it's an advantage for them because we provide them with vocabulary banks. At least they can come up with their own ideas and create more sophisticated writing. So for me, yeah, maybe it is applicable to my school, but I'm not sure about your school. It might be better. So it's not a one-size-fits-all approach. So you can adapt and adopt based on your students' level. And then teaching in a regular school like SMK Bongor, where English is seen as, where English is feared and ignored. So it's really a challenge for me, but I will try my best to change their perception that English is actually a fun and not an alien language, because they should be able to use it, enjoy, and love that subject. With that, thank you.